It was crazy because I was doing all this work after shows as well, right? Because I was traveling, I was doing, I was come back from a show and go in the lobby of the hostel or wherever, and then email places and find locations at till 2 a.m. Go to bed, and next day wake up and take a train or whatever.
The show must go on. Even if the show goes wrong, the show must go wrong.
Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being here. To start, can you I always like to have people kind of give their elevator pitch of who they are. Can you just quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Dragos. I'm a stand-up comedian that performs exclusively in English. Well, it used to be exclusively in English. Now I do a little bit of Romanian as well. I branched out this year. I've been doing comedy in Europe now for quite a couple of years, since 2018. That's been 7 years now. I started comedy in 2016 when I was in Singapore, and now basically I'm a full-time comedian based out of Berlin.
Fuck yeah. Thank you for being here. Dragos, also one of the most generous with his time and information. A guest on previous iterations of other podcasts I've had. So as I told you, the way we start is I like to talk about when was the last bad show you had, and I think this was kind of an interesting one to talk to you about because you have a following, and so I feel like a lot of times your audience is there to see you, which I would imagine could mean that it's not as frequent of an occurrence that you have a bad show, but also I know you've been working out some new material, which also has its bumps. So when I ask you what's the last bad show you had, what kind of comes to mind?
Well, I don't know. It depends who a bad show for who, right? For example, I did a recently show in Nuremberg, and there was a lot of laughter, and people had a good time. But I personally had a bit of not a great experience because the room was too hot. So I was doing my thing, but by the end of the show, my head was hurting because it was so hot in the room, and that's a lesson learned not to do shows in the middle of summer in Germany.
Yeah,
because we had 180 people in the room, and I think the room was okay because they had some degree of ventilation. So they were also hot a little bit, but they were obviously having a better time than I was because I also have the spotlights on me, right?
Yeah.
So I'm
and you're moving around.
Yes, and I'm extra hot, right? So for example, I definitely perceived the show as being a bit less enjoyable because of the heat. I was still doing a good job, but obviously the audience doesn't know. But in my mind, I was like, I'm missing some beats. I was literally fighting a little bit with the heat,
Yeah.
So that was the show was still good for the audience, and I was still able to deliver proper. There was laughter, there was a great, and it wasn't once every 30 minutes. It was laughter once every minute, once every 2 minutes. Crowd work went well as well. It was just from my personal perspective, the heat was affecting it.
Yeah. Well, that's also an interesting, I think, thing about the idea of what is a good or bad show, because I also think as you get further along in the art form, so to speak, it's I think that kind of thing becomes more common where it's for the audience, they had a nice time, but what you feeling firing on all cylinders is. And so if you're kind of pushing against this adverse conditions,
and I think the room, to be honest, it's we have a deficiency of rooms in Europe, finding good rooms, because I think the ceilings are also very, very high, so usually that affects. But I think everybody did have a good time, which is important to mention. But just like you said, I know what the peak of it is, and just not having AC in summer is it just shuts down the whole. Because the thing is, I could put shows and I could sell tickets, but it's just gonna repeat the experience of people not feeling great, right?
Yeah. What speaking of that, what is your how because at your level you could kind of just be putting up as many shows as you wanted. So how do you decide how many shows to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important, and I also believe in the idea of like having a bit of balance. You know, I think earlier on in my career, I was just you have to until you break out, you just have to do whatever you have to do, right? And I was taking a lot of buses and the hostels, and that's like I was like, fuck, I can't be living with the buses and hostels because it's rough, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think now I try to have like a bit of flexibility. I do the shows where I can. I try to like centralize bigger shows now. I guess, and at the same time, I want to have a little bit of time for myself as well, because you're working for yourself, but also you end up working 24/7. If
Yeah.
you really lay yourself in that direction. And I recently just got married as well, so I do want to have like a little bit of balance, and that's why I kind of like always stay a little bit weary of like, going too much into the industry and relying on the industry, because now I set up my own shows. But once you get other people in, like agents or promoters, or like they also need to make money.
Yeah.
And the only way they make money is if you're on the road 24/7. So the incentive balance kind of changes. They will push you to do as many shows as possible, right?
Yeah.
So I also believe in kind of like a controlled growth a little bit, You don't have to, like, for example, you can do something like Mad Rife and go from like overnight become massive, but now he's got like 200 shows booked, right? Which is great if it works. But I also, I feel like it locks in your schedule for the next year,
Yeah.
If you want to do something else. And so now, for example, this summer I've been taking it a little bit easy. June I've kind of been chilling. I haven't been doing that many shows. I did like Brussels shows at the start of the month, and I did this Nuremberg show, and I'm doing now now it's July, so I'm doing these Berlin shows. But yeah, like only 2 shows in June. Before that, in July and in May, I did like the US shows. I did some more shows in Europe. But yeah, now like this June, I also took the time to kind of, and I was just showing you before the podcast started, like play around. Like I'm quite interested in like tech and like AI and stuff. So now like AI is advanced to the point where you can just talk to it and it can build apps for you. Of course, you have to figure out how to talk to it, and then it'll build something. So I'm playing around with like building an app and like trying to build because eventually I want to build some software for the comedy business for myself. Like, for example, to help me make things easier, not pay so much for, like, for example, emailing services or like ticketing platforms.
Yeah, tools that you could use for your own business.
Yeah, just kind of, and it's also like intellectually challenging, Like I think taking a small break from comedy gives you some time for like stuff to get together.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That's I feel like a common adage in comedy is like if you do too much comedy and you're not living your life, you don't have anything to talk about on stage.
Yeah, exactly.
So I want to come back to kind of like earlier in your career, but just quickly, since you kind of touched on it, I do think what you're doing is super interesting. You're kind of staying independent because you have had like offers and everything from like bigger companies and producers or whatever to start booking your tours. So being independent, is that like a value that you like a personal value, or is it just like it feels like the best business decision because what you're talking about of like the incentive for them to keep you on the road? Or is it just also the fact that there is so little infrastructure in Europe that it's like you were doing it independently, and so now it's just the path of least resistance?
Yeah, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to kind of basically do shows as I was doing them previously, but for less money,
Yeah.
It doesn't make a lot of sense. And also, I think I always try to optimize as much as possible for quality of life, like in freedom.
Yeah.
I still want to wake up and do what I want to do, and I want to go wherever I want to go, right? But I think, that's the problem is you have a degree of like with some of these other, if you do a show with like a bigger promoter or like a big, established kind of like corporate, then they're going to be like, do show here, do show here, do show here. And you don't have as much control over the ads, they end up paying you late, you don't get the emails. It's like when you do it by yourself, of course, it's a lot more difficult. But once you figure it out and it works, now you're like in complete control of your destiny,
Yeah.
And maybe it might make some sense to do some stuff with some bigger kind of companies if it gives you access to other opportunities. But then, now you can get, access to the opportunities on, on like Instagram, TikTok. You still have to create content nonstop to kind of find a niche to kind of work with it. But, it's just like quality of life. And I feel like for me, quality of life, like, again, it's like, I can make money from my comedy, which is great, but I also want to, learn new things and like develop in different directions and stay up to date with like, like modern trends and whatever.
Yeah. So to go kind of back to the theme of the show, which is like, kind of bad gigs. Do you? I mean, at this point, you know you have like a big following online. You have an audience, and they're coming to see you. They know you and the kind of comedy you do. Do you ever run into bad audiences these days, or for the most part, is it more like what you were talking about with this show recently, where it's like there was an issue with the venue, or I was sick, or whatever. The show was, they were happy. The show was fine.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I think that was an interesting part of my own comedy journey. Was it was like when I first started, I really felt like there is no bad audience. It's just who I can't win over. And then you do it a little longer, and then you realize, like, no, sometimes there are weird audiences, and there was nothing that I could have done to change the vibe. So how is it if you have an established audience?
Well, I think, to be honest, at the point, like, if you have an established audience, people are already like, and you will find that the higher the ticket prices, the more people laugh.
Really?
Because they're more invested, right? They got to laugh for all the money.
Yeah.
So like, I feel like definitely that's been I think when I was charging less for tickets, like when I was doing like 10 or whatever, people, it's 10 you don't really care that much about, right? So you can like just show up to a show because a friend recommended, and be like
10 you're like let's just see what this is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but if you're paying, like, now I'm like charging like 20, 25, 30, you're like, someone invites you for a comedy show and it's 30 euros, you're like, do I want to go? Do I want to check it out first? It kind of filters some people out. But most of the shows, I would say now, they're like quite good. I haven't had like a bad show or a bad audience in a long time, I would say. I think I'm trying to think of any recent. I think a lot of times maybe I am a little bit too critical of myself. I feel maybe at the start of a new hour, things might feel a little bit, or if I don't sit down properly and kind of agree on like a set list before the show. And sometimes that might give me the impression of not being a great show. But I think now, because I've had so much experience, I also know exactly how to kind of navigate it, So, for example, if it's like all newer jokes are not working, I just pull out some older jokes from like the first hour, the second hour. Because the first hour, second hour, like, people have seen it online, but it doesn't have like 2 million views, Not everybody has seen it.
Yeah.
And most likely with the amount of content out there now, people have forgotten it. So you bring back some like old reliables to kind of prop you up again. Or I go into some crowd work. Sometimes the crowd work is like where the audience is like just doesn't want to give you anything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now that I think about it, I would think that one of the shows that I've did that was not particularly the best, and it could have gone a lot better, is I did a show, my crowd work show, Hot Gossip, in Romanian.
And you don't usually perform in Romanian.
Yeah, and exactly. And they're also recording it for this streamer in Romania, this online streamer. And the problem was, I've done that show in Romanian, and it worked like the night before, and it was amazing, right? But then they put 3 huge cameras in the audience, and the audience saw the camera, and because it's a crowd work show, nobody wanted to give me anything good,
Yeah, people are aware that they're going to be in this thing, and so then they don't want to volunteer. Yes, it was my girlfriend who cheated on me, or whatever.
Yeah. So then, even though that we were not filming the audience, people were like a lot more reluctant, right? Because, for example, when I film with my own camera, I just put it at the back. It's one camera. People don't really see it. And then at the end, if they say something, they come to me like, "Don't put that online."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Yeah, don't put it," because I've had some stuff like that where like they gave me some crazy stuff. And then please don't put that online. I was like, oh, don't worry, respect,
Yeah, totally.
And it was a great thing, it would have gone viral, but like, you can't put it if the people don't.
Yeah.
So I think that was kind of like one of the last shows I had where I was just pulling teeth,
Yeah.
I was talking to people, they were kind of saying stuff, but you could say that they were thinking a bit before, like in a crowd work show, they just blurted out. But with this one, because they were like these big kind of like cameras, and they were like, like filming cameras, like not, we have like compact, these kind of like mirrorless cameras. But like they had like those.
These were like cinematography.
Yeah, with like a gigantic lens, and then
And is it a weird gear for you to switch? Because I mean, like Romanian is your native tongue, but if you're used to, you've done at this point probably thousands of shows in English, and I don't know, a handful in Romanian.
Yeah, I think I've done like 10 in Romanian so far. And the first ones, there was a period of adjustment in the language because I kept trying to go back to English. And I was using like a bit of a raw English type of, I was just talking in English combining with Romanian, which is fine because the audience knows. But like the recent ones we've had, like they've been great. Yeah, I think, the muscle memory is still there. You just kind of have to get the language back, going, Just switch the rails. You have to switch the rails, right? A lot of times I would say that, let's say doing comedy in English in Romanian is kind of like doing badminton and table tennis. It's like different sports, but I think maybe that's a little bit too exaggerated. I think you can kind of switch back, but you just have to, like with crowd work, it works. But with material, it's a lot more difficult because material, you got to build new material for the language, you know?
Yeah.
I tried translating back and forth and it doesn't work as well. But yeah, basically.
But crowd work is more of a conversation, so
Yeah.
that's why
Yeah.
it's like you're just speaking in your tongue, and then you're. I feel like crowd work a lot of times is just being your natural funny self,
Yeah.
like reacting to stuff.
Right.
Yeah, but and so when you do Romanian shows, do you think about a little bit of like, let me try to think about some joke ideas that would fit the language? Or
Yeah, I did like 5 minutes in Romanian basically when I was there of material at the start of the crowdwork show, and they did do quite well. But I had to sit down and kind of think about it, and it was about like topics that were relevant at that period in time. We're talking about the elections. We're talking about like things that are more in the zeitgeist, and they worked a lot better.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the problem is like a lot of maybe like the flavor of my comedy in Europe comes from like telling stories from Romania or my childhood in Romania to people that have never heard anything about it, right? But if you do Romanian material in Romanian for people that have had the same experiences, they're like, yeah, it happened to me too, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not crazy to them that
Yeah,
a
it's not
goat
crazy
was
to them.
slaughtered in front of them or whatever.
Exactly, yeah.
But that's interesting. So you think, because so you think like for you, part of you think your audience, it's like they're interested in you sharing what this experience of like growing up in Romania was like. Because I thought, or my perception a little bit of your audience was like, there was this thing where, all of these Eastern European countries obviously have their own individual cultures and languages and everything, but there's some level of commonality there where it's like, oh, I'm from Albania. I don't know exactly this, but I do. My grandma was like that, and I can relate to it.
I think that exactly. So like, that's kind of like what I have, Like I didn't know, because there's the element of like, I didn't know someone else had this, Whereas like if you do it in Romanian for Romanians, like, I knew everybody else had this,
Yeah.
But like I think when you live in like, let's say Poland or like Hungary or like say Bulgaria, you're like, you have this experience, but you don't know everyone else is having them, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, nice to know that it wasn't just us,
Yeah, it feels you feel kind of like seen in that way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Whereas if you do it in Romanian for Romanians, they're like, yeah, bro, like nothing new, like.
Yeah.
You're like, what?
Yeah, they're like, this isn't even that crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, imagine you doing like material about I don't know, San Francisco to people from San Francisco.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I think they would, unless you're like, be like, you remember how like we had this and now we don't?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, sucks.
Well, it's funny actually you say that, because so I have a joke in my first hour about my parents having me certified as an energy healer.
Right.
And when I did it touring Europe, part of the joke, I would always be like, do we have any Reiki masters here?
Right.
And then of course there wouldn't be somebody, and then I had like this joke about it. And I went home and did the show in San Francisco, and I got to that part, and then 3 people raised their hand,
like Reiki
and you're
masters.
like, oh shit, okay. Well, it's unfortunate because the rest of the bit is about to shit all over the Reiki.
Yes.
But so actually, what I also wanted to go back to and talk about is, so I have to say, first of all, you inspired me to try to do my first tour. I remember I did a set back when you were still like hosting mics in Berlin.
Right.
And I did a set at Caracas, and afterwards you're like, when are you going to go on tour? And it hadn't even occurred to me. And that really inspired me to get out there. And Victor Petraskin, another prolific touring comedian here in Europe, always talks about how like you really like blazed the trail in terms of touring. So I kind of wanted to go back to the like your first tour. Like when was that, and what were those experiences like? Because I mean, you were also going to a lot of places where they hadn't had anything ever,
which is great because they were like quite excited to have it, right? Because
they
also felt like we were like, oh my god, we're in this secluded part of the world we're consuming this American culture online all the time, but no one's coming here, right? So it does feel like holy shit, like that element of being seen,
Yeah.
So like I think the first tour I did was like 2018, no 2019 basically. I started in January. I think it was end of January, no end of February, I think, or somewhere mid February.
What motivated so that you said you started in 2016.
Yeah, so
2017?
basically I started comedy in 2016 in Singapore, and then I moved back to Europe. I think it was around like late 2017. So I was doing shows in Singapore. Singapore had quite a good scene. I was doing like maybe like 3-4 open mics a week, like which is crazy. And then it's got into the element of it. You do 3-4 mics a week. It kind of
the material starts to
you
build.
start
you get more
improving, and
confident.
another big of a scene. And then if you're there 3-4 times a week and other people aren't, you get better faster, right? So then I was able to kind of open for some like other comedians that are coming to do shows from like the US and stuff, and that kind of helps you build up your little bit of confidence. But then my company got bought out. The company that I was working for got bought out by HP. And then I was working there in sales for like a tech company. They got bought out. And when we got bought out, the company got bought out. I was just doing like sales development, account executive. And then basically when we got bought out, effectively the pace of the company just slowed down to nobody cared. Everybody was like, okay, we're going with HP. So I was focusing more on comedy, but then I hated like the work because it was just slowed down. Everything was you could tell like the vibe had changed.
Yeah,
because
it wasn't exciting.
Yeah, the whole company was like, we're gonna compete with like the big giants. We're gonna show them, and then we got bought out by the big giant, and they were like, oh, so it was all.
It was all bullshit.
Yeah, it was all a lie about competing, right?
Yeah.
And then the founders and whoever took their money, and then okay, well I guess I gotta find the new hype thing, So then I found a job for a company in Estonia, and at that time it was like a great opportunity. I was gonna do like partnerships for this company, and move to a bigger salary, bigger compensation to Estonia. So I moved to Estonia. And then
there's an English comedy scene.
Yeah, but it's very small
there.
though. It was very small at the time, right? So you did some shows there, but then a lot of times you just have to go to Estonian comedy shows and then just wait in the back until your turn came to do the show in English, to do your part in English. And I was like there for like 40, 45 minutes just listening to people doing it in Estonian.
Yeah.
So having no idea what the fuck was happening.
And also then it gives an awkward thing of like, I mean, this already happens sometimes in English shows because we're coming in and out.
Yeah.
But that thing where like you come on stage and then you comment on something that's already been like and if it's happening in another language, then there's no way out of it.
Yeah, exactly. So then so then I was like, I was doing work there. It was nice. It was interesting. I also kind of like got a little bit into coding for the company. I was reading a lot. I think that year, because there was nothing to do in the student, I think I read like 70 books, like crazy, right? Because the company will also pay for your books. Like, I'm just like, all right, fucking stuff. So I read stuff about like entrepreneurship. I was reading a lot of stuff about marketing. So I think also that kind of laid a bit of foundation. And then after 1 year, I was like, I just don't really want to. I was like, because I had the question, I was asking myself the question, if I didn't have to work for money, what would I be doing, Because I had some money saved up, and I was like, I don't really need to work for money, what would I do? So it wasn't like gigantic amounts, but it was like maybe like 20, 30K, right?
Yeah, enough to get you through a couple of years.
Yeah, I was like, this is going to, I can survive on 1 year. I can take 1 year to kind of be like, and then basically I was like, well, if I wouldn't want to work for money, I would be doing comedy. So I was like, okay, well, how would I be doing, what's that plan to do comedy? So then I started looking into the space in Europe, and I was like, I need stage time, right? That's what I need. So then I did like a spreadsheet of all the open mics in Europe, and then I came to the conclusion there was either UK, but I knew about the UK before, and I knew some other comedians moved there, and I knew there was like an oversupply of comedians, and there's a lot of open mics, but there's a lot of comedians, and also the UK is expensive. And then I came across Berlin, and Berlin also had like maybe like 15, 20 a week at that time, shows, not open mics, just general shows, at least based on the online presence. And then I was like, well, let me see if this is true. So I came to Berlin on a trip for like a week. And then I did a couple of mics. I did like Adorable Idiots. I don't know if you... Adorable Creatures.
At Z-Bar, right?
No, this is before. So Adorable Creatures was at... Adorable Idiots was at Z-Bar. Ran by Brittany and Zach at the time. And then Adorable Creatures was around Koti, where Zach was doing it in a different bar that's now, I think, defunct. I forgot what it's called. Yeah, it was good. And I met some people there. I met like, I think Anna, Vidura, they were doing mics. I don't know if Anna was, no, Vidura definitely was doing stuff then. I think Dane, a couple of people. And I was like, yeah, okay, there's a scene.
Yeah.
So then I was like, all right, well, this is the place. And then I think I also did the boat, if I'm not mistaken. So then I was like, all right, I got to move to Berlin, right? And that year, so I did the trip to Berlin. I did some shows, and I was like, oh, that's pretty good. And then I was like, and I went to the Fringe for like 2 weeks just to check it out. I didn't do a show, just to do spots. So basically, I came to Berlin, I think in 2018 May.
Yeah.
And then I went to the Fringe in August 2018. And I had already decided to move to Berlin after I came to Berlin.
Yeah.
So I had quit. I handed in my resignation.
And did going to the Fringe make you like rethink or think about going to the UK, or did it just reconfirm that like Berlin is the
It just
spot?
reconfirmed that, yeah, with enough stage time and focus, I can definitely go up, right? Because like at the Fringe, if you don't know how the Fringe works, is like there's no really any filtering mechanism.
Yeah.
You just find a room, book a stuff, pay for the accommodation, and you go there. And then there's a lot of shows, which is great. So I went and did a lot of spots, and I watched a lot of shows, and you can see really a big kind of like wide range of competency.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You see people that are really good with full rooms, and you see people that are really bad with full rooms. And the room becomes less full as the show progresses.
Yeah.
You know?
And also really good with empty rooms.
Yeah, exactly. So then basically I was like, oh, okay, then it gave me the opportunity to kind of place myself, you know, in, let's say, in the upper 50% of quality. I'd be like, okay, if I were to do a show at the Fringe, I'd definitely be in the upper 50%, right? Because I saw some shows that are like, I'm like, Jesus Christ, you know?
Yeah.
Like what the fuck?
Yep. Yep.
Like what degree of self-delusion, you know?
Yeah, totally.
Anyway, so then I did some shows, I did some spots, and I was like, you know, if I'm already with this amount of work in the upper 50%, if I focus and buckle down, I can definitely go into like the top 20 or 10%, you know?
Yeah.
And that was kind of like the logic. So then I was like, okay, what do I need to do? So I was like, you know, the idea was like, I'll come to Berlin, I'll do some shows, and I'll write material for like, you know, a couple of 6 months. I was like, 6 months, I'm going to write material, and then I'm going to start touring. I already had like 20 minutes. I had like 30 minutes. I had to cut 20, and then basically...
Wait, you had 30 minutes and you had to cut 20? What do you mean?
No, sorry, I had 30 minutes. I had to cut it to 20. So I cut like 10. Because they were like not really working.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. And do you think that 10 that you had to cut, was that because it was too steeped in Estonian
Yeah,
stuff?
it's Singaporean, Estonian. It was like too local. And then basically I started doing mics here. So like 3 months I didn't focus on... I was just basically 3 months I was just like focusing on comedy full.
Yeah.
Just like from the start to day, I had like a schedule. I would wake up.
You're not working, you're just...
Nothing, yeah. I would write down. I would walk around the city, think of stuff, listen to comedy podcasts, just depth in like... Yeah, and then I was doing shows.
And at this point, do you already have some sense of like, oh, okay, there's some money to be made hosting and producing shows? Or are you thinking already like, I'm going to try to get out on the road? And
not really. At that point,
are you even thinking about making money from comedy?
No, I was just basically, the only concern was like, how do I get more stage time, right?
How do I get better?
Yeah, exactly. And I knew like, if you want to get better, you need stage time. Because like in sales, we have metrics, right? You have like key performance indicators. And like have you ever heard of KPI?
No, I mean, I've heard the term, but I don't know what it means.
So like basically in corporations, they're able to kind of get a general idea of how many of one thing leads to success, right? So for example, a key performance indicator in the sales environment, basically how many phone calls leads to a sale, right? And they can kind of generate an average to kind of force people to do that thing, right? So for me, I was like, so for example, you'd have to do like, let's say when I was working in sales, you had to do like maybe, I don't know, 100 calls a week to, in the end, generate 4 deals at the end of the month.
Yeah.
You know, so like, 100 calls average, that was, example. Yeah. So then I knew like, okay, there has to be like this certain level of KPI for
comedy.
Yeah. What's the number that I need to optimize for to be able to achieve some degree of comedy success, right? So the idea was like I used that methodology to think like, okay, what's the thing I need? I need jokes that work, you know? So then I was like, what is a joke that works? It's a joke that gets laughs, you know? So I need to basically make sure I get like 2 free laughs a minute.
Yeah.
You know? And then this knowledge was already in the air because like, laughs per minute is already a metric that is discussed.
That's talked about in comedy.
Yeah, all the time, right? So I kind of knew about it and I was like, okay, I could make the connection. So I was like, okay, well, I need laughs per minute. And how do I get laughs per minute? I need jokes. How do I need jokes? I need to write, you know?
Yeah.
So then I was like, okay, what do I need in order for a joke to be good? How many premises do I need until it turns into a joke, you know? So then I was like, okay, I made like some math and I was like, okay, I need to write 5 premises a day to lead to one joke. That was kind of the idea.
So you like basically roughly you were thinking like if I write 5 premises a day, one of those over the time of performing it at multiple mics will become a real bit that then adds to my 20 minutes that I have.
Yeah. So then the idea was like, okay, I'll start off with like writing premises, but then I need to verify if these premises are any good, right? So in order to verify the premises, I need to try it on stage because I can't. That's the only way you know, right?
Of course.
So then I was like, okay, I need to try it on stage, and then I was like, okay, I'm only getting like maybe like 3 spots a week. I need to get more opportunities to try it on stage.
Yeah.
So that's what led to the hosting the open mics.
Yeah.
Because I was like, how can I get more stage time, right? How can I get more stage time?
And you saw the hosts were getting
exactly
kind of all the stage time they wanted.
Exactly. Yeah. So then I was like, okay, the best opportunity to get more stage time is to run my own show, right? So then I was running my own shows. I started, you didn't think about how do you run your own shows. You kind of figure you get a venue, you get like all this, you set up. Then okay, I have the show, I have the venue, but nobody's coming to the show.
Yeah.
How do I get people coming to the show?
So you have to start to market the show.
Yeah, I post into Facebook groups. Where back then when Facebook groups were like not completely spammed 24/7 by comedy shows, in Berlin. Because now you go to I don't know how effective it is anymore.
It's not effective, and I remember literally one time I was in the era where I was spamming in Facebook groups.
Yeah.
I was in a group and someone just commented, I think I posted, and someone just commented, a Facebook group is dead when the comedy shows come.
Yeah, I mean, like when basically in 2018, the Facebook groups were still it
was a real way you could find people and connect people.
Exactly. And you were only like 1 or 2 people, but then the word gets around, and then now you have like 6 posts a day, 12 posts a day about like come to my comedy show. And then now it's just like, okay,
Yeah.
And then, so I was posting in Facebook groups, and then, Eventbrite was kind of generating some people at the time, but then eventually you're like, I got to go into ads, right? But, and then afterwards I was, let's say, doing 3-4 shows. At one point, me and Chris were like doing, because I started doing shows, because I was doing shows by myself, and then I started doing shows with Chris. And then we started, at one point we had like 6-8 shows a week. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And then you figure out, okay, how do we... Open mic. Not everybody wants to come to open mic. You have to change formats. And then I was still doing a lot of shows, and I was, obviously at that point I figured out that you can also, because the model in Berlin is like, the person that hosts the open mic and provides the performance opportunity gets to keep the donations, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, we're going to also make money to sustain myself with comedy. But then I was like, okay, but I'm still, not getting, how can I go to the point where like, how can I do like what other comedians are doing and they're touring?
Yeah.
And I realized the reason why they're also better, the touring comedians, is because they're like doing 1 hour a night, Sometimes they're doing 2 hours a night. So I was like, now I'm doing,
it's not 20 minutes, 8 minutes of which are you explaining how a comedy show works.
So even when I was doing 6 shows, let's say a week, maybe I was getting like 3 hours a week of comedy time, stage time. I was like, I'm getting 3 hours in a week. Some people are getting 18 hours in a week,
Yeah.
Like let's say 12 hours in a week. So I was like, how can I get to 12 hours in a week? Another KPI, right? Another metric.
Yeah.
So then I was like, the only way I can do that is the tour. I have to tour my own hour. At that point, I already had like maybe like 40, 50 minutes because I was still doing the writing thing, right?
Yeah.
Because I was like, okay, I need an hour.
And because I feel like one thing I ran into is like I started producing shows, and that is like also a time intensive thing that affects your time for the creative part of the job. So was that when you started producing more, did you feel like that was affecting your...
Yeah. At one point I was like basically like, well, I'm just, because the thing is like I was like, well, at the moment I'm like, doing all this work so I had to kind of not pull back, but like really focus on like blocking like 2-3 hours and like writing and stuff. And then I realized that basically I also needed to, because the problem was I was recording myself with the phone. But at one point I realized like I also need to kind of see the performance, because I was watching some other comedians and I'm like, I don't know exactly. Well, I was watching some other comedians, and then basically the biggest problem that some comedians have is like they don't hold the mic right. They hold it here, they hold it here, they hold it here, and like you can't hear, right?
Yeah.
So then I was like, maybe I should get a camera as well to see what my stage presence looks like as well.
Yeah.
So then I got a camera, and once I got the camera, basically I was rewatching the videos, and that kind of helped me improve as well, because now you're rewatching the videos, you can also edit.
Yeah.
Edit the jokes real time, I should have said this here, I should have said this there,
Yeah.
So that kind of, now I should do more watching of my videos, because I don't do that much, because I outsource the video editing, because just time constraints. But yeah, I should definitely bring that back and at least watch one show a day. I think that's good.
I don't watch the I have a harder time watching the video. I watch the video when I'm editing for clips,
Mm-hmm.
but what works for me is I always record the voice note
Yeah.
on my phone, and what I like about that is then I'll put that on and do household, like I'll like wash the
Yeah,
dishes,
yeah.
and listening I almost get more ideas because I'm not
Right,
looking
right.
at myself thinking,
Right.
oh, I look fat in that t-shirt,
right,
oh, I
right,
wish I
right.
was sweating less. It's
Yeah.
just the
Yeah.
words. So what about the so you start hosting, is that when you start doing like you first start doing some more like crowd work
Yeah,
and stuff?
yeah. Because like as
And
well,
were
like,
you always thinking, like when you have 40 minutes and you're thinking, okay, I need to get out on the road so I can get more hours of stage time, are you already thinking, oh, maybe this kind of tool of like hosting and crowd work can be something that bridges the gap from my 40 minutes to making this a show I could take on the road?
I mean, not really, to be honest, because I was doing a bit of hosting and stuff as well. But I think the majority of the hosting started after the first tour, right? Because I
Okay.
moved here in September, and then I was moved here in September, and I basically 3 months it took me to kind of just do material and come up with like. And I think I was hosting one show by the end of. I hosted like I think 1 or 2 shows by the end of that period. I was doing the roast battles, which were at like Radler's, which was shut down. And then another one, I think, in another place was like an open mic show. But when I first started touring, it was just material mostly. Because I had written down a lot of material. And, some of them, like the process, I also don't overthink it. I'm like, if I try a premise 5 times and it works 3 times out of 5 times, put in the hour.
Yeah.
Fuck it. Because some people like spend like, 2 years perfecting a joke. I mean, bro, come on.
Yeah.
We need like, people want content, right?
And also, I feel like sometimes I don't know about how it works for you, but like I'll have a joke that is kind of, like a 3 out of 5,
Yeah.
or even sometimes a 50-50 joke.
Yeah.
But if I keep doing it, the hit rate starts to improve.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and also in an hour, sometimes a joke that like doesn't work in a 7-minute set in the middle of an hour.
Yeah, it makes more sense, maybe.
Makes more sense.
Yeah, so that's also the difference you have to, because I was slowly, as I was doing these spots around town, I was like, okay, there's a way to write for 7 minutes, there's a way to write for 12 minutes, there's a way to write for 30 minutes, So I was discovering that, and then basically I was doing some smaller gigs, but I started doing the first show was in, I think, February end of January 2019, and I went to Bratislava, I remember it even now.
Okay.
I went to Satori stage.
And why did you choose Bratislava? So you have this idea in your head.
Yeah.
Okay, I need a tour to get better. I need these hours. And at what was the point where you felt like, okay, I'm ready to do this. I'm going to take this.
Yeah, I think I was like, fuck, I gotta start doing it, And I was like, let me see which venues kind of get back. So I reached out to a couple of venues, and then I had some different issues because like my presence online wasn't that big, so a lot of times people would be like, oh, we don't know if you're gonna sell tickets. But these guys were like, I think I rented the room from them, and it was like 200 euros. And then I had like 35.
That's a big swing for your first show.
Yeah,
to like
yeah.
invest 200 euros.
Yeah. I mean, that was the deal, right? Like that was the situation. And then I found a place in Copenhagen which was free. So I had I think I did like maybe like 4 or 5 cities. It wasn't like massive. And then after I saw that they were working, I started putting more.
Yeah. And how was your first show? And did it go well? Was it
I think
good?
it was okay-ish. It was like not terrible. And we had like 35 people, I think, and I did the door, and then they came, and we had like the room capacity was like 50 anyway, 50 or 60, so 35 is like good enough.
That's a show.
Yeah, it's a show. Yeah, so we had like 35 people, and a lot of times people would come to the show just because this was the first English event to happen. Enough. So there was like a curiosity of like, oh, what the fuck? English comedy? I've seen it online. I was like, they didn't know who I was, but I was advertising as like English stand-up comedy,
Yeah.
And then, they came. The show, I think, was good. We laughed. And then at the end, people were like, yeah, that was great. Thank you. And also the thing is, like, also people don't, I think people also, like, as a comedian are overcritical about, like, the quality of material. But the audience doesn't necessarily have, like, the same level of quality control or, like, the rating as you do,
Yeah. We got into comedy because we love comedy. So we tear it apart. And we know what we think is really good and what isn't. And
Yeah. And so the audience was like, oh, that's great.
Yeah.
They don't expect LPMs,
Yeah.
Yeah, so like, oh, that was funny. I get it. Yeah, it was cool. Yeah, and it was nice. So that went well. And then
did you have any like on that first tour? Did you? Because like my thing, like the tour that I went on the first the fall the first time, I felt like something went wrong at almost every, like, I mean, I went to Barcelona. I had like 9 people plus
Right,
my mother's.
right,
Brutal.
Right.
Uh,
9
the
people is still better than 1, you know?
Yeah, true. But with my moms in the audience, the show is kind of about them.
Right,
and
right.
it's like,
That's great.
And then I did the next show was Dresden, and in Dresden, at 20 or like a half an hour before the show, the guy called me and he's like, I double booked the venue, and so they put me out on the patio with
Oh
a
my
karaoke
God. Oh
mic,
my
and
God.
this is October in Germany,
right,
so
right,
it's
right.
like fucking. He's like, so long as it doesn't rain, it should be fine. It's
Right.
like, well, what if it rains?
Yeah,
you know.
that sounds.
So did you on that first tour? Did you have some things go wrong like that at all?
I mean, the only kind of bad experience was basically just like taking the Flixbus, because I took the Flixbus to Bratislava, which was like fucking hard, right?
Yeah.
And then I
how
didn't
many hours is that?
Like maybe 7 or 8 hours, I don't know.
Yeah, that's long.
Yeah, and then I didn't want to spend money on the hotel there, so I took the Flixbus back.
Oh, the same night, like
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
catch the midnight one.
Yeah, and it was like, what the fuck, you know? And I think that was the night basically when it was like, because it was like February in Bratislava, 2019, and then I was like, this is the Flixbus was at 3 a.m. I was like, I'll finish the show by 11, and I'll just go have some food or something and just be in the bus station, you know?
Yeah.
And I'll just play Pokemon Go, because I was playing Pokemon Go at the time
Yeah.
on my phone. I'll just play some Pokemon Go. But then the fucking Bratislava bus station at that time, the old one, they would shut it down at midnight and then reopen it back at 3 p.m. Because like I don't know what the logic was. What
Yeah.
the fuck? And then basically it was a full station of people, and they kicked us out for like 3 hours.
So
In
you're
the-
just sitting in February weather.
It's like
in-
minus fucking 12 outside, you know?
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it was insane. Yeah, so me and this Italian guy who barely spoke any English, we kind of got together and coordinated, and then we went to a hotel. We went to a hotel, and we just waited in the lobby at the hotel, and we bought a coffee there. But the guy was like, I want to see my daughter. You know, he was
Yeah.
like, I'm here in Bratislava to sell furniture. You know, I'm
Yeah.
selling chairs. That's because I asked him, what are you doing here? He's just taking a bus back to like Italy, right?
Yeah.
I'm doing this for my daughter. You know, my daughter. He was a nice guy. He was a great guy.
Yeah.
He was some picture of the daughter. I was like, I come here and I sell the tables, I sell the furniture. And it's all for her.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm doing this for myself, bro. You know, like
Yeah.
it's
And
yeah.
I'm questioning myself.
Yeah. And I didn't. Yeah, this part I did not plan for. You know, I did
Yeah.
not know that this was the situation.
Did you have any moments on? Because I remember also I watched Vidura's. We talked about this
Yeah.
recently, but I watched.
Shout out to Vidura. He's doing great, right?
Yeah, shout out
Yeah.
to Vidura, a Berlin comedian who's doing very well over in
Yeah.
the UK now. And he made a kind of a documentary about
Yeah, I remember doing
himself
that
and the Berlin
documentary,
comedy scene. And in it, you mentioned you were like, I did 80 shows.
Yeah. It's crazy.
And I mean, that's relentless, first of all.
Yeah.
But I mean, there must have, like, were there some ones that were like rough?
I mean, I think there
did you
were.
have some?
Maybe this is also my delusion as well, right?
Uh-huh.
Like I'm like, oh, it was great.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
I also have that thing. Like I remember I found a video of me doing comedy for the first time, and I remember it as being great. But now that I watched it, I was like, this is fucking terrible,
Yeah.
disgusting. You know, like I'm looking at the floor. I'm like, it's terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe also I also have some degree of self delusion, where I'm like, oh, this is great. People came to see me, and we thought,
Yeah.
they're like, for me, like if they already going for the door, it's already a success. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe this is how I qualify it. So I've kind of maybe like blocked out like
the bad moments.
because the shows were like some of them were making profit, some of them were not making profit. So the good thing was that the Bratislava show was like so it was okay, right? It was like oh yeah. But what really happened, and it was like a break even. Maybe I made €100 on the Bratislava
Yeah.
show, right? After the whole fucking debacle with
Which
the
when you start kind of breaking even is like a success.
yeah, exactly, yeah. But then really the big success was the second show I ever did,
Uh-huh.
which was in Copenhagen. I found this venue in Copenhagen. It was like 110 people, and then they allowed me to have the venue for free, and I sold 110 tickets. It was sold out. It was insane. Then I remember I charged like a little bit more. I was like, oh, it's Denmark, so I'll charge like €14.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. I made like €1,000 profit on that show. and like my second show ever. And I was like, wow, if I could do this every day, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
You know, so it really, and the show was great, you know?
And did that keep you going?
And there was
some
no-
of the other where you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Because I feel like that gives you a sense of
Yes,
the possibility
yes,
of what is
yes.
possible.
Yeah, and they see now that I'm talking about it, they're coming back, they're flowing back, you know, their
Yeah.
memories. Yeah, definitely that kind of, you know, pushed me for some of the worst shows coming through. Because now that I think about it, there were some worst shows, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that went well, and then I don't remember if I went. I did like a couple of shows in like.
And why did you think to go to Naples? Like, because I mean,
because my logic was like I gotta I can't, because the problem was the following thing: if I'm gonna have like 3 days, I'm gonna lose money because I gotta pay for a hotel if I'm not in Berlin,
Yeah.
right? So I gotta put whatever I can find. So that's how I ended up doing like 80 shows in like 70 cities or whatever, because I gotta find the next one, you know.
yeah,
Like for example, I would have like maybe let's say a show. Let's say I had a show in Denmark and then I had a show in Norway. I was like, well, in 5 days. Well, I can't just hang around 5 days in Denmark and pay rent here, right?
yeah,
So I was like, okay, well, I'll go to Malmo, you know, or I'll go to like Lund, and I'll go to like you know Jönköping, Norrköping, Linköping. These are like smaller cities in Sweden, right?
yeah,
And then I'll go to Stockholm, and from Stockholm I'll fly to Oslo, you know,
yeah,
just to fill out the days, because I was like, where else can I fill? I was looking at the map and I was like, where else can I do a show? So then I would message places, and it was crazy because like I was doing all this work after shows as well, right? Because I was traveling, I was come back from a show and like, you know, go in like the lobby of the hostel or whatever, and then, you know, email places and find locations at like 2 a.m., go to bed, and next day, you know, like wake up and like take a train or whatever, you know. It was
And-
just the amount of work at the start was insane.
Did you have moments where you ever thought, maybe I need to pull back a bit on the touring, or I don't know if this is worth it? Like, because I mean,
Definitely, you need to replan when like end of April, May starts. Because I was like, fuck, the tickets are not selling, you know. And I also made the mistake of going to Spain and Portugal in like May.
yeah,
So then that was rough, right? Like at Barcelona, actually, fortunately, went well. I got like 60 tickets, 60, 65. I mean, I had some like British people that like, because this is when I learned to increase the price. The price was like 10 or 12 euros. And then these Brits came to the show because, like, oh, it's a comedy show. And it's 12, and they can't fucking talking. And they were like the worst people ever. So I had to fucking tell them to shut up. And they were like drunk. And I was like, fuck. And then I went to Madrid. And Madrid was also a bit rough because now that I remember it, yeah, first time I went to Madrid, it was in this Irish pub. And I was on the ground floor. But there was actually, it was like the basement floor, but there was no roof. It's like the people you can hear.
so like you could hear the upstairs bar completely.
Yeah, so I got like 35 people or like 40 people down in the maybe like even 25. I can't remember. It was like, but then the noise from upstairs, and it's just like not a great show. And I tried, and then people, I think they were like very kind, and you know,
They could see you were trying.
Yeah. They were like, oh, you know, they were like, I think that's the thing is like the audiences. I think if you do stand-up comedy in English, the audience are quite forgiving, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, that was a bit rough. And then I think the Naples one was rough as well because, like, I just spent so much money. And then the people at the show came to practice English, but they didn't really speak English well, so they didn't understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a little bit crazy, but it was fine in the end. It was a bit hot. But Naples was a great city. I had a great time there.
What was the least amount of people you ever had?
4.
4.
Yeah, and I was going to go into this. This was when the pandemic was starting.
Uh-huh.
I was in Helsingborg in Denmark. So Denmark has like, if you go up north, it's just like another city called Helsingborg. They have like a big castle, and I had rented I think they gave me the venue for free.
Mm-hmm.
This room was a big room. It was like 140 or like 180 or something, massive room, right? And then basically I had sold maybe like 40 tickets. But because the pandemic was happening, right?
Yeah.
It was kind of coming. And they were like, I spoke with the venue, should we cancel? They were like, no, let's do the show. They also wanted to have something going on, right? And then I was expecting 40 people. I was like, 40 people is going to be a show, right?
Yeah.
But
40, but also 40 and 180
whatever.
is already a bit
Yeah.
rough, but
Like,
it's doable.
It was a stage. The stage was like this big, you know?
Yeah.
And then, you know, like it was crazy. Yeah. And then I remember they had candles on all the tables.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic. So in Denmark at the time, there was this thing of like, if you basically got ticket for a show and, you know, you're not going to go, don't ask for a refund because to protect the artists, right? Because shows are getting canceled, people are not going. So I had 40 tickets. Nobody asked for a refund, but 4 people showed up.
Oh.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. And they were like, I remember they were mostly Portuguese. Shout out to them. They were working for like a language school there. 4 people.
And are you like?
So
did you consider not doing the show? Like,
I was like, these guys came. 4 people is still a show, you know. So I was like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. We're not gonna basically. And like I said, it was 4. They were literally one table.
Yeah.
And there were like 20 tables in the fucking venue, right? So I was like, look, guys, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to do the show here at the table, you know?
Yeah.
So I did the show at the table, you know, like for them. And yeah, it was some laughters here, some laughter. It was rough.
Yeah.
And then we went out and we got some snacks with them after the show. So, but it was nice. But it was like, you know, it was rough.
Yeah.
It was rough. And then
I had 4 people. That was also in Graz. I had 4 people, and I remember the most humiliating part about it was so we had 4 people.
Mm-hmm.
This other person was producing it, so I would have probably said like, let's not do the show.
Right.
But he was like, let's do it. Okay. The 4 people show up, and then 2 of the 4 realized that it's only. They went downstairs and they saw this like basement stage with 4 seats set up, and they were like, "No, like, God. And I just remember being like in that moment, like, okay, so either I'm gonna have to do the show for 2 people, or I can beg these people to stay. So I just was like, please give me 10 minutes. I'll prove to you it's gonna be fun. And it was okay. I mean, it was a bit rough, but like you have to, like, I did what you did, where I was like, this isn't a real show. This is a conversation. Let's keep it, you know,
it's
you know, some connection there.
Yeah, and then like like a show that went well but was quite awkward was like I did the show. I think it was Norrköping or Linköping in a kebab shop.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then like the kebab place. The room's quite big. It's supposed to fit like 80 people. Mm-hmm. We had like maybe like 35 or 40 people, but this was like when the pandemic was like going, right? Like was coming. Like I think 2 days after this, basically they shut down everything, and I had like 40 people, maybe like 35 people come to the show, but like 8 of them were Taiwanese students from Taiwan that were studying in the city. And they all sat on one side of the room, and the other side of the room sat on the other side of the room from the Taiwanese people because they thought they had COVID.
Ooh.
It was crazy, right?
Yeah, that's uncomfortable.
Yeah. And then like everybody was like, I don't know about these guys. One of the guys was Romanian. He was like, I don't know about these guys. I don't want to sit there. What if I get COVID? And then it was crazy, right? Like it was crazy. It's fucking insane. And then I asked them.
Did he say that in Romanian or in English?
In Romanian.
Okay,
yeah.
So at least there's some.
Yes.
You're like, okay, at least the racism is secret.
Yes. And then I talked to them because I didn't know they were from Taiwan, but I talked to them during the show as a crowd work. And then they said, "Where are you from Taiwan?" And I was like, "Guys, relax. They're from Taiwan. Their whole marketing platform for the past 20 years has been we're not China." You know, so that kind of relaxed a little bit. But I remember it was like the tension was like crazy, right? Like even the kebab guy was like, it was like some crazy racism, wild.
So I have 2 more things I want to kind of get into with you before we wrap up here. But just quickly, it's also interesting to me. So like, you're going to all of these random cities just trying to fill the dates, but how did you like think to find these venues? Because I mean,
just send messages, Google search. I would search for comedy shows.
You just Google search events in the city.
I would just search bar or like live music.
Okay.
Yeah, because like live music, for example, like Irish pubs were like the default.
Yeah.
Because if there's an Irish pub, they have a stage and I have a microphone. God bless the Irish.
Yes.
So I did a lot of them in Irish pubs. And then if not, I would just search because I was like, okay, this one is like a pub, like a brewery or a pub.
Yeah.
So then, like, for example, in Lund, I did it in like this small little beer bar. It was like one of these craft beer bars. And they didn't even have a stage. I was asking, like, do you have a PA? He was like, yeah, we have a PA. Do you have a stage? No, but we can just put some crates together, like beer crates. You know, we can zip them tight together and we have a stage. It's like, okay. So they just did like literally
just
like
beer crates put together.
Yeah, they were like with zip tie, and I just sat on it. They were like, just don't move too much.
Yeah,
because they were like a bit shaky. But it was a great show. It was in Lund, and we had like a lot of. Lund is a student city right next to Malmo. A lot of students came. We had like I think I did 2 shows back. The first time I did 2 shows back to back.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was like 30 and then another 30.
Yeah.
And it was a very small pub, and it was like I literally did it in front of the bar. You know.
Yeah. Did you ever get yourself in? Because I mean, I also did that where it's like you book some pub that you've never been to, and you show up and you're like, okay, the stage is right next to the front door, and so some people paid to be here, but then there's also just regular customers.
Yeah, that's the problem. I tell them, can I have the room for that? So I knew like, can I have it for that period of time? And some places were like, yeah. Some places were like, yeah, but we have some regulars. And then the regulars, I think I did it in Mannheim, and it was like a rock bar. And they insisted like, we have our regulars. They're not gonna do anything. They're just gonna sit there and drink.
Yeah.
And there was like 3 old dudes just sitting in the corner.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, it was fine. But the problem was like they smoked inside because I don't know, for some reason, usually in Germany you can't smoke inside. But in this rock bar, they were like, fuck the rules.
Yeah. Makes
Yeah,
sense.
so it was a good show. People were complaining a bit about the smoke, but yeah. And then other pubs I've done, yeah, just I think I did a place in Lausanne in Switzerland where they didn't have a mic because they
Oh.
didn't think of putting a mic. I was like, do you have everything? I also didn't ask. Now I ask all
Yeah.
the time, right? So I had to do it a cappella, and I had like 80 people. So 80 people is a big
80 people a cappella is.
yeah, it's a big ask for, you know. I was like, my
Yeah.
voice was fucked after that. And then the problem was at that show, I also hadn't booked a hotel in Lausanne because I was like, I'll take the overnight Flixbus to Luxembourg,
Oh, yeah.
which is even crazier because on this first tour, to kind of force myself to think of comedy and do comedy, I decided, I forgot to tell you this, but on the first tour, like this 1 year, this 1 year that 2018 to 2000, I guess 2000, end of 2019, to immerse myself fully in comedy, I didn't have data on my phone.
Really?
Yeah, so I did all this.
Because the thought is then you're going to listen to comedy
I'm gonna
podcasts
listen-
and
No, but I
like
no,
listen
but
to your
I-
sets.
No, but I would listen to other podcasts. That's the problem. I would listen to non-comedy podcasts. So what I would do is I would fill up my thing with podcasts, comedy podcasts, and I would listen to those on the bus.
Yeah.
But so I wouldn't have time to like browse the internet or whatever, right? So then that meant that I would have to download the Google Maps when I got to the hostel or before I went. So again, planning.
Yeah, the offline map thing.
I would have to plan my thing all the time, right? So and then so then I found myself like in a situation where like I know the bus is gonna come at this place, but the bus is not coming, and I have no way of wait. Do I wait? Do I not wait?
Yeah.
So I'm going from Lausanne, this place where I just did a cappella, to the bus station by Google Maps because I took screenshots and I'm going there, and it's also cold because it's like February
Yeah.
or like March or whatever the fuck it is. And then I get there and there's no bus, and then there's no one around, and I'm like, what do I do? And I also don't know how to Google any of the hotel because like the hotels are not searchable. But anyway, I waited for like 20 minutes and the bus came. And the bus came. We went to we crossed the border somewhere in Luxembourg or whatever, and like 4 a.m. we got checked by the police. So everybody has to come out of the bus,
Yeah.
and the dogs sniff your bags. It's crazy.
At any of these moments, did you ever think about I don't know, giving up?
I mean, I was
Or-
kind of like in the first part of it, I was like, well, I'm learning where not to go.
Mhm.
I was thinking like, I'm learning where not to go. I'm learning where not to go. I think when I was a little bit like discouraged, but good things happened afterwards, was like I was doing these shows in Croatia, set up by this organizer, this producer in Croatia, and the deal was like we would go to these locations, and then basically I would do 30 minutes headliner in English, and then I had 2 guys with me that were doing it in Croatian.
Mm-hmm.
And most of them went well. These guys are actually super funny. One guy was gay, the other guy was a flat earther. Great story, you know?
What
Yeah.
an interesting little crew.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And but the flat earther was hilarious.
Yeah.
It was hilarious. So super funny guy. It was like an older dude, like grizzled Croatian comedian. But like he was very funny. Like
Yeah.
he was funny in English. I was like, this guy should be on a podcast. But he had like alcohol problems.
Yeah.
Classic. And I'll tell you this. So basically, at that point, I was also trying to figure out. This was like I think was in September of 2019 or like later in September, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it was like maybe end of September, start of. I did the shows, and one of the shows was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Was like nobody spoke any English. Nobody spoke any English, like nothing. And I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Like literally, I was just talking for like 30 minutes. The only time they laughed was when I said Scooby-Doo. Like literally, it was raining outside. It was like pouring. It was like a really gloomy kind of day. But then right after I got off stage, I got the message that I could open for Jim Gaffigan.
Oh wow.
So that was like a real like I was like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
And that was like, oh my god, like a real upper,
Yeah.
because I was messaging like I would see if comedians were coming and someone was coming to Europe. I would message them on Instagram. I would message their producers. I would message their like production company, their manager. I'd be like, hey, and I knew I was like, I will do these shows for free. I'll cover the cost of my flight.
Yeah.
And then basically in the end they paid me something. But I also sent them the clip, and it was great. So like I remember like because Jim Gaffigan answered first, and he was like, "That's very funny. Romania, the Mexico of Europe is very funny."
Yeah.
Yeah, they tried to build the wall. We stole the bricks. That's very funny. I was like, "Oh my god, Jim Gaffigan said
Yeah.
my joke was funny," And then I went from like doing this shitty.
Well, you're so in the wild over here. I think
Yeah.
when there's someone big like that
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
it just gives you some feeling of legitimacy.
Yes,
I'm at.
exactly. Yeah, it really kind of like, oh my god, yeah, there's keep going, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, shout out to Jim Gaffigan, and then I did the shows with him. So I went from like doing these like fucking, like fucking nightmare gigs in like
Raining, no laughter.
yes,
except for
yes,
Scooby-Doo
to like
2.
a room of 1,200 in Vienna, like
Yeah.
with Jim Gaffigan and like 800 seaters, and like I did Latvia, this huge gigantic 650 seater with him, and now I went and last year I did it twice by myself,
Wow, that's a crazy.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
must have been a crazy full circle
yeah,
moment
crazy.
for you.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Uh,
And I remember like I did those shows in Latvia, and like because those were also I had the jokes for that, they were dying laughing, and I was like, oh my god, yeah, it's
yeah,
working.
yeah.
Crazy.
And then, so I also we talked through like you did this, 2018, 2019, this whole tour. Then it's, COVID hits.
Yeah.
And my understanding of your career is like that. Like, I mean, you were doing social media stuff, but like
Right.
that's when you went into overdrive.
I had to-
with
yeah.
with social media, and I just was if you could talk about that quickly of like, obviously, I think that was something. I think that's a thing of maybe our generation of comedians is like there is an understanding from the start, like it is about selling tickets,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you need to find
Yeah.
an audience to sell the tickets. So
Yeah.
were you working at posting and doing that game much before COVID? And
I wasn't-
And what made you kind of get really like double down on
I
that?
wasn't really doing it that much, right, at that time, because basically I had a couple of clips. Some of them were from Cosmic and stuff, and I was using some of them for ads, but I wasn't really doing it that much, right? But when COVID came, I was like, fuck, because people don't remember, but COVID was like, they shut us down for a long time.
Yeah.
Like in Europe, we were shut down from like until June. Like, for example, like from February till June.
Yeah.
So the first lockdown, right?
Yeah.
Then the second lockdown was from January till May.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like long ass.
Which is
fucking-
also both of those stretches are like essentially like peak
Yeah,
good
yeah,
comedy time, touring time.
exactly.
Getting opened up in summer is like you're not. It's not like you can necessarily
and
really
then
go out.
when they opened up in summer, we had to basically have social distancing, right? So we
Yeah.
had like fucking 3 meters between the tables. Like
Dumb little covers on the
yeah,
thing.
exactly. Yeah, so you had to kind of it was rough, right? So I was a little bit stressed, and I was like, well, I gotta, and at that point the problem was like I was paying more money, like because I remember I did the tour before the second lockdown. I did the tour, and that tour went okay, but like I was paying so much money on Facebook ads that I was like, I just gotta find a different way. I gotta find a different way to kind of reach the people because I'm just working for Facebook,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember telling Chris at the time as well, we're working for Facebook. We are just working for Mark Zuckerberg,
yeah.
So then I was like, I have to grow online. And then at that time, I had the camera, so I was like, okay, I have to figure out some clips, put some stuff, just do something, And in
did
the
you-
in the first pandemic, because that's how I started. Like in the first lockdown, I had footage from 2019 because I was filming the shows. I was filming with one of those cameras that has like fucking 30-minute limiters.
Yeah. So that's what I was gonna ask you. Was like, so was part of also the equation that like you've been doing all of these
Yeah.
tours and filming them, so you have hours of stuff
Yeah,
to go
yeah.
through.
Because I was filming them so I could rewatch them and figure out what tag I said so I can put it
Yeah.
in the material. That was the initial purpose, right?
of course,
I was like, I got it because I say some stuff, and then afterwards I'm like, fuck, what did I say? And I was like, I need to go back because that was like I'm letting go of material and like good tags, right? But I never really had time to go over all of it. But when the pandemic came, basically, initially when the pandemic came, I wasn't editing straight off the bat. I was like, I'm gonna become a YouTube content creator, right, with comedy and stuff or something. So then I was like, I started doing comedy special reviews.
yeah.
I don't know if you ever watched any of these videos.
Yeah,
which
and
like-
you talk about like the laugh per minute. And
Yeah,
them, and
yeah, which was great because I watched over 40 specials and I did the analysis, and I think that also kind of helped
you-
me like create this internal KPIs, like okay, I need to have facial movements, I need to have characters in the stories because a lot of character creation was leading to jokes. I need to have like movements. I need to have punchlines. I need to have facial expressions because they were getting laughs with facial expressions. So I was like, how are they getting 6 laughs per minute? So like facial expressions, characters, movements, that kind of stuff. So I was counting all those them like on my fingers while I was watching it, and I was putting it in the spreadsheet. And I think that also kind of helped me like develop like an internal rhythm that I need to have, like, okay, this,
Yeah.
And then those ended up being massive flops because nobody was watching them. And then I was like, oh, I need to figure out another way to create content. And I was like, what kind of content is, because you watch videos about like people telling you what kind of content does well. They're like, you have to do evergreen content, people that stuff that shows up in search. And I was like, what do people search for? That is, I do a lot of, crowd work and jokes about nationalities. How can I combine jokes about nationalities with evergreen content? And I was like, I will review national anthems.
I also remember
And it's crazy because that was a great it was a great strategy, because some of my most viewed videos on YouTube now are like reviews of national anthems.
Yeah.
Because people will search for national anthems once a year.
And were you thinking at all about Instagram and TikTok at that
No,
point?
but then somebody messaged me on Instagram. I had a bit of an Instagram following at that time, not massive, but somebody messaged me. I think it was this girl from Sweden or something. She said
how many
like
followers do you remember? Like
maybe like 20,000 or something. I had like
Okay.
15,000. But then this lady messaged me and she was like, you should put stuff on TikTok. TikTok's where it's at. I was like, all right, fuck it. Why not? And I put it on TikTok and the first video got like 150,000 views.
wow.
And not even subbed.
Yeah. And this was a crowd work clip or
It was
national
it was joke material.
joke material.
It was like
okay.
Romania, the Mexico of Europe. We tried to build a wall. They stole the bricks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I started putting some stuff because I had that at this point, and this was like I think maybe like late in maybe like April in the first pandemic, in the first lockdown, because I thought to myself the first thing I did was after when the pandemic came, I was like, I don't know when I'm be able to do this material this hour. I gotta just edit it and put it online.
Yeah.
So I edited and put it online maybe by the end of like I don't know. I think I can look it up, but basically I put that up, and I think it was maybe even 2022 actually. I can't remember exactly. I can look it up. But yeah, I edited the first hour, which the first hour wasn't. I had a show that was great and actually No Stress Bar in Copenhagen, but the problem is the fucking camera shuts off at half an hour.
yeah.
So then my first hour online is actually this Frankenstein 40 minutes from one show, 10 minutes from another show, 10 minutes from another
Yeah.
show, And
But that in itself is also actually kind of interesting.
yeah.
I feel like
I think it's definitely a snapshot in time.
Yeah.
And I also liked it the way that it was. The reason why I also kind of like wanted to put it out like that, because the quality, it looks dark and brown. Like, it's like the footage is not great quality, but the sound was great quality because
Yeah.
I had a mic on top and the mic was like in the middle of the audience. So the laughter, you can really hear the laughter. And I edited it in Filmora editor before Adobe.
Yeah. Okay. I haven't even heard of Filmora.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like this Chinese editor that was like a one-off pay because I was also trying to save money. So it was like, I think it was like 50 euros and you have it forever.
And so this is also an interesting thing I didn't realize is like, so you left the job in Estonia and were like, okay, I have a little bit of savings.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to make a go at
Yeah.
comedy. You get to Berlin, you start to make a little bit, maybe hosting some shows.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's like, maybe helping you,
Yeah.
stretch this time. But basically from that point, even through the pandemic, you never went back and got like a non-comedy
No,
job.
because I think I kind of like it took me like I was expecting 6 months to get an hour up, right? Mm-hmm. But I had it ready in like 3 months,
Yeah.
and it wasn't amazing. Like it was some parts 20-30 minutes is amazing, but I was like, okay, I can go with this, and I can just figure it out
Yeah.
on the road. And then I was like, all right, well, let's just go do shows,
Yeah.
So it basically from like moving to Berlin to doing my first tour, it took me like maybe like 4 months.
Yeah.
Which was like also, and I think also this was because of planning, because like being able to kind of get an idea, I was like, okay, having like some clear metrics, this planning infrastructure experience that I had from before, right?
Yeah.
I think because I think sometimes about it, like, what was the key differentiator? And I think it was like this planning experience from before.
Yeah.
And also the ability to kind of like, I did cold calling for many years. So it doesn't really, bother me that much if somebody says, no, you can't have this. Or if something goes wrong, I'm like,
someone saying no to you, you're used to that. You're
yeah. I had built up a tolerance to like rejection. I was like, okay, this is just one step closer to the deal,
Yeah.
So I think this was like I guess because I knew like, okay, if I do enough, it will come.
Yeah.
I had this experience. Like, I just have to fucking hit the phone, or like send the emails and reach out and.
But also some foresight. Like I remember talking to you around the pandemic era and asking you about the crowd work clips and you being like, well, I saw Andrew Schultz having some success with this.
Yeah.
But I mean, you were kind of in the very first wave of that.
Yeah, I saw it
trend.
because I remember basically because I was doing crowd work at the shows already. And I saw Tyrone doing crowd work at the show, and then I watched Schultz's special, and I'm like, this is not that great. This is not amazing. It's not better. Or like, let's say, if it is better, it's not like exponentially better than what we're seeing here at the shows, right?
Yeah.
Like for example, like to this day, I think Tyrone is like one of the best crowd work guys like I've seen, right?
Incredible.
He's just amazing. Like and I'm like, this is not better than Tyrone, right? Like I think if this guy can get 100,000 views, you know, I can also do better stuff, right? And it also shows you know, the distribution also matters a lot, you know.
Yeah.
And being able to, you know, film it and put it in there, and like I've seen.
And also the effort of like, you know, people want to be like, I'm going to post clips, but then it's like when you actually have to face like, 4 or 5 hours a day, I need to go and edit these things and
that's the
stitch them together and put the subtitles and then review which ones did well and try to improve. Like that's.
I think that's also like the ability to kind of understand that was needed and like just mentally endure that was also a big part of it, and also that just have the time to do it, right? Because I had some, you know, obviously the money from some of the open mics and some of the savings, and I was like, okay, I can, and then nothing to do in the pandemic, right? I was like, I will just, you know. Because I had money, I was like, okay, if I'm gonna keep eating from, you know, I was getting chicken from like Reve and just boiling it and just eating it with salt. That was my meals. You know, I was like, I can get away with like 15 euros a week.
Yeah,
you know?
I always say that about Berlin is there's not I mean, it's getting worse, but it's a great city to be poor in.
Yeah, for sure. I think I was getting by on 700 a month, you know, with rent and food.
Yeah,
during the pandemic. So.
The last thing I wanted to ask about is like, I mean, in so many ways, I feel like, you know, it feels like from an outside perspective, I mean, you've achieved your dreams. Like you're making you have a career. You're I mean, this moment, for example, of like selling out 2 nights of the place that you opened for Jim Gaffigan. Yeah. Like what a beautiful moment. Can you soak that in those moments, or and B, is there still you know, do you still have other dreams or other goals in comedy that you feel like you still are reaching to achieve?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great to do bigger shows, but I also try not to fall in the trap of like, you know, bigger, because it never ends, right? So I also try to figure out, okay, what do I want? You know, I'm doing the shows are doing well. Of course, I want to sell maybe a bigger room and stuff like that. But I also feel like the experience kind of like, you know, gets a bit diluted at bigger rooms, you know? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, you know?
Yeah.
It's a different type of show. But I just want to make sure I have time for other interests as well, right? Like, for example, now, like I was telling you, I'm like spending some time on like just getting to know, because I'm also like interested and fascinated about like this AI trend. Like really, like if you talk to my wife, like she's like, this whole month I've just been like hyper focusing and like going deep in it and trying to understand how it works and and it's crazy. It is insane how like much is advanced. You know, I'm learning Spanish, my Spanish as well. I'm using AI, ChatGPT to learn Spanish. So I want to do comedy in Spanish and sell some tours out in Spanish. That's one of the comedy goals. Of course, with the English comedy, I also want to do more. And I just also want to have like, you know, I want to have comedy. I want to kind of like try to protect a little bit comedy from like being work, you know, because I think it has been like quite a lot of work and focus. And I also want to have like, you know, I don't want to hate it, you know?
Yeah. You want it to stay a fun passion.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like if I go too deep in like the, you know, the obsession of like make it bigger, do it more, you know, get the Live Nation or like get like whatever big companies involved or like whatever, I feel like it might affect a little bit the enjoyment. Because I figure like once you're introducing other people, they also have a stake in what you do. So they force you in a particular direction. So yeah, I feel like I want to protect that and have like some self-sufficiency. You know, I also ideally want to have a diversified source of income. You know, maybe like comedy, maybe some, you know, maybe this app thing that I'm doing, maybe like, you know, some touring business for other comedians. We'll see. You know, I just want to have like a varied approach to things, right? So just want to have like, you know, just explore different interests and different stuff. But yeah, I also want to sit down and write some cooler stuff as well. And I feel like you also need to step away a little bit so you can come up with new ideas and new inspiration, you know?
Yeah. Well, dude, this was really awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time. I mean, do you want to maybe promote any
Dragoscomedy.com, Dragos Comedy on all the platforms. Give me a follow. Yeah, try my app. Maybe by the time this finishes, you'll be able to try my app. Try it at tasktamer.work.
Tasktamer.work. Unlock some animals.
Yeah, there you go. It's like a to-do list. As you complete your to-dos, you evolve and unlock animals, like Pokemon meets to-do.
Yes.
That's it.
Well, dude, thank you.
Thanks a
This
lot.
was awesome.
All right, thanks a lot, bro. See you soon, yeah?
The
Yeah.
show must go on. Even if the show goes wrong. The show